What is up, DTV? Once again, I am Eric, Dave's friend, here to review Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 2, Home. And this was a pretty big episode. A lot of stuff went down, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, spoilers are coming. So obviously, I have to start with what happened at the wall. So, Alistair Thorne wants to get into the room where Jon Snow's body is. They're breaking down the door to get in. Davos is in there. Ghost is in there, and it looks like they're right about to get in, and then, bam, the wildling giant, whose name I think is Wun, comes bursting through the gates with Tormund Giantsbane and Ed, Jon's friend. That's where Jon went last week. That's where Ed went last week to get the wildlings. So they fight off the Night's Watch who killed Jon. One of the Night's Watchmen shoots an arrow at the giant. It does nothing to the giant. The giant just takes the guy and smashes him, and most of the other Night's Watch just lay down their arms and surrender. But, Alistair Thorne's like, fight, you cowards, fight. He then calls out at a traitor, which is kind of funny because, you just killed the Lord Commander. You're calling him a traitor. And I thought Ed was going to kill him right then and there, as well as Ollie, who was Jon's steward, who also murdered Jon. But no, they're going into cells. I do think they will get theirs in the coming weeks, especially with what else happened in this episode, which I'm going to get to right now. So Davos goes to see Melisandre, who, thank goodness, is her younger self. She has her necklace on, and her faith is completely stricken. She's all upset still, and he says to her, "Look, does Jon Snow need to stay dead?" She's like, "Look, I've never done it. I don't have that power." He's like, "Have you ever seen it?" She's like, "I did see someone do it once," and she's referring back to season 3, the Brotherhood Without Banners, and he says, Sir Davos says, "Fuck the drowned god. I'm not asking the Lord of Light. I'm asking you, someone who showed me miracles can happen." Because Davos has seen her drink poison and not die. He's seen her give birth to shadow babies. So he asks her, "Will you try to do this?" So she does it. She does this ritual on Jon's body. She cleans his wounds, cuts parts of his hair off, throws him in the fire, starts chanting in High Valyrian, and she goes over and over, and it doesn't seem to work. So Tormund Giantsbane leaves all upset. Melisandre leaves all upset, thinking she failed. Davos finally leaves, and then the camera kind of just lingers on Jon and Ghost, and then all of a sudden, Ghost wakes up, and then Jon wakes up. Hallelujah. He is alive. He is back, and we all pretty much knew he was going to come back. It was really just a question of how and when, and I'm so glad that they chose to do it earlier rather than later on in the season, which I said in my review last week. So I'm glad he's alive, and I'm curious how different he's going to be, because as we heard in season 3, when you come back from the dead, you don't come back the same. So I'm curious, wonder what's he going to be like now. So I can't wait to see what happens with that. So that's the story at the wall. Next, I want to go to Bran's story, and he wasn't on last season. And to be honest, I've never really liked his story much. I haven't been too engaged in it. But this episode, I loved his story. So he's warging with Three-Eyed Raven, and he's seeing Winterfell and his father when his father was just a boy, as well as his uncle Benji, who Benjen Stark, we haven't seen since season 1. He was a member of the Night's Watch, the first Ranger. He went beyond the wall, and we haven't seen him since. Now, in the books, he's maybe a character that's been introduced in the books that the show hasn't done yet, but it's cool to see Ned as a young kid and Benji, but the really cool part was seeing Lyanna Stark, who was supposed to marry Robert Baratheon, and that's what started the whole rebellion against the crown, because she was taken by Rhaegar Targaryen, and that's what started the whole Robert's Rebellion thing. And she was it was cool to see all that. But then there was a surprise. We see Hodor, and we find out he was once normal. He could speak. His real name is Willis, and I really hope they explain how he became the way he did. He obviously saw something to make him the way he is. I'm curious, and I hope they do show what it is. So Bran wakes up, and he says to Three-Eyed Raven, you finally showed me something I love. But the Three-Eyed Raven warns him, you can't stay in these things for too long. It's very dangerous. Then we go to Mira Reed, who's outside the cave, and she's all upset. Doesn't really know, what she's doing there anymore. She's upset because her brother died in the season 4 finale. But one of the children of the forest, says to her, "Look, Bran's not going to be here for forever. He's going to be out there, and you're going to need to go with him. You have a part to play in all this." So, I really loved the flashbacks in this episode. I'm now very much looking forward to Bran in the season. And this episode kind of confirmed, set up a fan theory that I think is going to come true. I'm not going to say what the theory is. Some people know it, some don't. I'll just say R plus L equals J. And I think this episode set that up. So hopefully we'll see more flashbacks. So that's the story with that. So next I'm going to talk about Winterfell, which some messed up things happened. So Ramsay's talking to Roose Bolton. Ramsay's like, "Look, let's just go attack the wall, kill Jon Snow," because he knows that's where Sansa wants to go. And Roose Bolton's like, "Look, we can't just go kill the Lord Commander of Night's Watch. Everyone will rebel against us. That's crazy." They're interrupted. They find out that Roose's wife, Walda Frey, has given birth to a son. Ramsay's, of course, threatened by this and all upset. So Roose comforts him. He says, "Look, you'll always be my firstborn son." And Ramsay, for a second, seems very touched, but then takes a knife, drives it right into Roose, killing him, which was a little apropos because that's the same way Roose killed Robb Stark at the Red Wedding. And I don't like Roose. I'm glad he's dead. He deserved it. But what happened next was pretty gruesome. So Ramsay, who's now Lord Bolton, goes to see Walda and his new brother, and he holds the baby. Seems all nice, but then Walda Frey is like, "Where's Roose?" And Ramsay's like, "Come here, I'll show you." He takes her to the kennels where the hounds are kept. She's holding the baby. She realizes what's about to happen. She begs Ramsay, "Please don't do this. I'll go away. This is your brother." And then Ramsay, being Ramsay, gives a typical response, "I prefer to be an only child." He lets the hounds out. They devoured Walda and the baby, and it was pretty horrifying. And for a show that's done a lot of horrifying things, this is up there. It was tough to watch, very tough to watch. But that's the story with that. Next, I'll get to Sansa, who's talking with Brienne, the Kingslayer, and Brienne gives her some good news. She says, "Listen, I saw Arya. She's alive, and she was well." And Sansa's happy to hear she's alive. And then Sansa talks to Theon, and Theon informs Sansa that he's not going with them. He says, "Look, Brienne and Podrick can protect you much better than I ever could. I would have died to get you to the wall," but he tells her how he's scared Jon Snow will kill him because of all the stuff he did in season 2. And Sansa's like, "No, I'll tell him the truth. You didn't kill Bronn and Rickon." And he's like, but then Theon's like, "Well, what about the 2 boys I did kill? What about how I beheaded Sir Roderick? What about how I betrayed Robb?" He's like, "I don't want to be forgiven. I just want to go home," which I'll get to a little bit later on. So they hug and say goodbye. It was a sweet scene. So we'll see. So we'll see if Theon makes it. That's the story with that. But next, I want to get to Meereen. This was really, really cool. So Tyrion's talking to Varys and Gregor. He's wondering, what should we do? He figures out we need to let the dragons out. They're intelligent creatures, and we need to unchain them and let them out. So he goes to where the dragons are kept. He says, "Look, I'm a friend of your mom's. I'm here to help. Don't eat the help," which had me cracking up. It was so funny. He unchains the dragons, and the dragons seem to respond pretty well to him, which leads to another fan theory that I don't know how much validity there is to it, so I'm not going to get into it yet. If you want to know what it is, message me. But Tyrion gets out of Dodge, and he says to Varys, "If I ever have an idea like this again, just punch me." And, it was a great scene, and I love seeing Tyrion, as I said, in leadership positions like this, like when he was the Hand of the King in Season 2, because in my opinion, he is the most level-headed person on the show. So that was pretty cool. Next, Arya had a short scene. This is getting a little redundant. You know, she once again is getting her butt kicked by the Raph, whatever her name is, from the House of Black and White. But then she finds out it's really Jaqen H'ghar. Jaqen H'ghar says, Arya, what's your name? And she goes, I'm no one, makes her say it over and over. And finally he says, okay, you can come back to the House of Black and White. I hope she's not going to be there for very long, because, like as I said last week, she's at her best when she's out and about in the world kicking butt. So I hope this isn't a season-long thing, because it's getting a little redundant with it. So that's the story of Arya. But next I'll go to King's Landing. So it starts off with this funny scene. Some random guy's saying crude stuff about Cersei, and he's taking a piss, and the reanimated mountain comes up behind him and just smashes his head against the wall, and it was so funny. It was such a funny scene. But then we go to Cersei, who's in the Red Keep. She wants to go to Myrcella's funeral, who's her daughter. The Kingsguard won't let her because they have orders from Tommen, the king, not to let her go anywhere. It looks like the Franken Mountain is about to just wipe the Kingsguard out, but he doesn't. And it flashes to Tommen and Jaime. Jaime, of course, is his father. He's giving Tommen advice. Tommen's very upset. He's like, I failed Marjorie. I failed my mother. I didn't take action. And Jaime says, look, just go and see her. Because Jaime knows that Cersei will forgive him. So Tommen leaves, and in comes the High Sparrow. High Sparrow says his usual mumbo-jumbo stuff, and Jaime's like, look, I've done bad things. I've killed my cousin. I killed the king I was sworn to protect. I let my brother go free. I could kill you right now. And the High Sparrow goes, okay, go ahead. And then all of a sudden, most of the Faith militants surround them, and Jaime sees the predicament he's in, and he doesn't kill him. I really hope, though, that the Sparrow and the Faith militant get wiped out, because I don't like them at all. I really hope down the line they do get wiped out. But then the scene cuts to Tommen and Cersei, and he asks for forgiveness. He says, I'm sorry I haven't come to see you sooner. You know, you tried to raise me to be strong, but I'm not strong. Will you help me? And she, of course, says, yes, I'll help you. And I don't, as I've said before, I don't like Cersei, but it was a nice little scene, touching, because he's her last child. And, she'll do everything she can to protect him, and she does know the witch's prophecy is still out there, so she's going to do what she can to keep him alive. But personally, I don't think he's going to stay alive. That's just my opinion. We'll see what happens with that. So finally, we'll get to the Iron Islands. Now, we haven't seen a lot of Balon Greyjoy on the show. The Greyjoys are featured much more in the books than they have been on the show, but Balon's talking to Arya, who's Theon's sister. She's telling him our last stronghold is gone and we're in trouble. And Balon's just acting cranky. He's like, look, I'm the last of the 5 kings to still be alive. And he kind of jinxed himself, it kind of seemed. That's what it seemed like to me. So then he leaves and he goes across this bridge during this torrential storm, and he's greeted by this hooded figure, and it turns out to be Balon's brother, who hasn't been there for a very long time. The show doesn't say it, but his name is Euron Greyjoy. They talk, and Euron says to him, I am the drowned god, and this pisses Balon off. Balon goes to kill him, but Euron takes Balon over the bridge, killing him. So it then cuts to Balon's funeral, and Arya thinks she's going to just take control and take command, but she's informed by her uncle that's not how it works. There's going to be a king's moot, and you very well could be chosen to lead. You'll be the first woman to lead, but it could also be someone else. So I don't think it's going to be Theon. Who knows if he's really going to make it home? But we'll see what happens with that. It's cool to see the Greyjoys. I like their story. So obviously it's going to play a part in this season, but overall, it was a really good episode. I liked it better than last week's. I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the season, even more now, thanks to this episode. Hopefully more flashbacks. Yes, I'm still a little upset Stannis is dead, but, you got to move on. But these are my thoughts. This is what I think. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to DTV, and I will see you guys next week. See ya.